Hi, in today's video we're going to take a look at this Atezr L2 laser engraver. This is a second generation product just released from Atezr, and this one they provided to me is a 24 watts model. Besides its model, they also offer models with either a 12 watts or 36 watts laser module. I think I'm among the first few to receive this laser engraver for review. If you wanted to purchase an Atezr L2 after watching this video, you can use the product link provided in the video description below. As a new product, it has a lot of new cool features and improved specifications. I will try pointing them out along the way. But the first impressive number I wanted to point out is its claimed speed. The L2 is capable of engraving at a speed of 54,000 millimeters per minute, or almost 1 meter per second. This reduces engraving time by 3 to 4 folds compared to the first generation Atezr laser engravers. Now obviously, the actual speed also depends on the material you are working with, as the faster the speed, the smaller the amount of energy is absorbed by the material, and that affects the overall engraving effects. And if you're using the engraver for cutting, you will have to use a much slower speed, of course. As you can see here, the box the Atezr L2 was shipped in is quite large. Everything is very well packed together and well protected. All the parts have a matte purple finish and looks quite premium. It definitely left me with a very good first impression. Assembling everything together is also made easy with the detailed step-by-step instructions with corresponding diagrams. The screws are separated into different bags with the step numbers printed on them, which makes the process even more effortless. Putting the frames together does not take much time at all with these detailed instructions. Speaking of frames, I was told that the linear guides used in the L2 has 4 times longer lifespan compared to those used in predecessors and support more than 180,000 sliding cycles. The rigidity of the frames also improves the overall stability and high-speed engraving performance. The dry belts are enclosed, which makes them less susceptible to the environment and improves the overall reliability as well. The only step I run into a little bit of an issue is when trying to insert the transfer shaft in step number 2. The tolerance between the bearing and the shaft is very tight, and I wasn't able to push it in once I have assembled the frame. And because the frame had been assembled, I wasn't able to see whether something was obstructing the shaft and preventing it from getting through. So, to play safe, I disassembled the side and pushed the shaft in first. And as it turned out, it was just a very tight fit. In hindsight, I should have been able to insert the shaft after the frame has been assembled. As illustrated in the manual instruction, I probably just needed to push it a little bit harder. But better safe than sorry. The X-axis rail where the laser head will be mounted on came pre-assembled. But you actually need to take it apart first before it can be installed onto the sliding rail and connected to the rest of the wiring harness. Although it may look a little bit complicated, this step is actually not that bad at all. There's also one limit switch needs to be installed. I'm wondering why this limit switch could not have been factory installed, as the other limit switch came pre-installed already. And finally, the laser head slides into place. Speaking of laser module, it has 12 LEDs on the side that displays the current laser power output. This is actually very convenient during engraving, as you can easily tell whether the power level is set correctly, and it's just fun to watch. This 24 watts laser module uses 4 6 watts laser diodes, and combines the output to form the 24 watts laser. Now, no doubt there will be some power loss during the beam combining process, so the actual output I suspect will be slightly lower than the 24 watts, depends on the efficiency, which is not specified. Anyway, the diagram on the product page is not a high resolution one, but there is a diagram of a 36 watts laser head on Atezr's website. And you can see that there are multiple low wattage laser diodes inside, and the final output is the combined power of all these laser diodes. They have done a great job at cable management. You don't need to worry about any loose wires. The only cable you see is the bundle from the X-axis that is necessary to control the stepper motor and the laser. The Atezr L2 also comes with an air assist module. Air is pumped through the pre-assembled rubber hose and comes out from the laser head. This not only helps the cutting process as the air blows away the debris and helps the laser to cut deeper, but it also keeps the laser optics clean, as otherwise the soot generated during the operation can easily get deposited onto the laser optics and thus reduce the laser power output over time. Okay, now everything is assembled. Let's power it on and take a look. Oh, by the way, there is a pair of laser safety goggles that supplied with the unit, and it blocks out the blue laser spectrum. Make sure you wear it whenever the engraver is powered on for your own safety. The L2 has an interlocking power button for added safety as well here. You can see that before I inserted the key, I can't really power on the unit. So to operate the laser, you have to insert the key and turn it on first. Then you can actually use the power button to power on the unit. This is a welcome additional safety feature as the device is equipped with a very powerful laser, and it can be quite dangerous if it turned on somehow accidentally. Once the unit is on, you can control it via either the PC software or the onboard LCD touchscreen. The touchscreen is magnetically attached to the control box, as you can see here, which is very neat. Now, it seems that the only way you can use the LCD is if you plug in a drive, as you can see here. Now we don't have a flash drive inserted and you can't really use it, but there are some very basic settings. You can see we can cycle through these. The system language and operating mode, I assume this is how fast the laser head is moving here, where it also controls the other linear movements as well. And there's a tilt detection here, which is interesting. Let's try it out. For that, I'm going to lift the side here. Yeah, you can see that indeed the tilt is detection is working correctly. Of course, not sure if it's all that useful, because after all, you are, let me disable the alarm first. After all, that's a huge inclination there. And let's take a look at what other settings we have here. There's a flame detection. Again, if the flame is detected, it will automatically stop the engraver here. And next page, again, we can turn autofocus on and off. We'll talk about autofocus a little bit later. We have auxiliary positioning. Let's go to the next page. About, let's see here. It looks like the firmware is very recent. It's just a couple months old at most. As you can see here, the maximum dimension the engraver can operate is 410 millimeters by 410 millimeters, which is actually quite a huge area. And I do want to show you what are some of the other options you can select from this menu here. And for that, I have to insert a flash drive. By the way, this flash drive is supplied with this engraver, which looks actually quite nice. And let me plug it in. So once it's plugged in, let's see engrave. And you can see that we have different patterns preloaded. You do have the ability to navigate amongst these menu items here. So let's select one of the print here. And this is a high-speed test. And by selecting the print, actually, it will not start the printing just yet. And you can see here, the laser comes on. And right now, the laser is at 20% by the look of it. Actually, two of these dots are turned red. That's the active laser power. So this display is very handy. You can see at any given moment what the actual laser power output is. Now, with this menu option, you can see that we can frame the object. We can move to center point. Let's try that. So basically, you have control over the engraver using this touchpad. Focusing can be done in a couple of ways. You can do it manually by adjusting this Z-axis using the knob here. Atezr also ships a manual focusing block, so you can use it to tell how far the laser head is from the material surface. You can see here, so that comes in handy. And if you want to do, let's say, 10 millimeter, you can just simply slide down the Z-axis here. So that's manual adjusting the focus. Of course, you can always do it automatically. And that is done via this autofocus button that I created in the LaserGRBL. And it's very easy. You can see that. We'll first see how it does the auto adjustment. Now I did notice that autofocusing doesn't always work. It mostly depends on the printing material you're using, I guess, but in this case you will see that he actually successfully adjusted the focus, and you can see here the autofocus set it at just about 5 millimeters. You have to put a command here to enable the autofocus. Let me just show you really quick here. And autofocusing here, you have to set up this command yourself, and by creating a custom button. And all you do here is just to put in the ESP500, and that essentially enables the autofocusing. And also I added 2 more buttons, one for the Z-axis up, one for moving the Z-axis down. So you can see that here as well. So if I press this, the Z-axis moves up, and I press the other one, the Z-axis moves down. Since I was showing you guys here, there's another button I want to show. That is the air assist. So let me turn on the air assist here. So you can see that nothing is coming out from the air assist module yet. Let me just focus on the air assist module. So nothing is coming out from here just yet. I turned it on already. To enable that, all we need to do is press this button. And now the air assist is on. And press it again, it is off again. And let's take a look at what the setting is here. So for this button again, we have essentially 2 codes here, one M8 to turn on the air assist, and one M9 to turn off the air assist. Now this was not very obvious at first, so I thought something was wrong with the air assist module, but it turned out that it's essentially this setting here. So again, we can turn it on and turn it off, which comes in very handy. Of course, you can always just use a external 12 volts power supply to power the Atezr air assist module independently of the main laser engraving unit, and that definitely can come in handy at times as well. I printed out the test pattern from LaserGRBL on some different materials with different settings. One of the first few prints I made was actually using this test pattern and engraved on the bottom of an anodized aluminum heatsink. Because it was among the first few test prints, I didn't pay too much attention to the focus of the laser, and as you can see from the video, the laser head appeared to be a little bit too high from the surface. Nevertheless, the finished print was still pretty sharp. Here is a closer view of the result. Considering the result from using out-of-the-box parameters with no additional adjustment, you can see that everything is actually very clear. I later engraved the same test patterns using 2 different settings on some wood blocks. The first one, again, as you can see here, used a default setting, and the laser power appeared to be a little bit of too strong. As you can see, it's a little bit burnt, and the letter doesn't appear to be as crisp. Now, afterwards, I adjusted the power settings to be 80% of the maximum and did another run. And this time you can see the second run on the right here. This one appears to be slightly less burnt and a bit more crisp, but both of these results are exceptionally well, in my opinion. In the light burn program, there is a test pattern for testing the effects of speed and laser power on the material. So I decided to use the pattern on a tempered board panel. The panel is roughly 0.11 inch in thickness. I adjusted the minimum power to be 50% and left the maximum speed at 30 centimeters per second. And here you can see from the result, the default setting worked pretty well. The laser was able to cut through all these squares at the bottom at 5 millimeters per second. So you can see the board here is at 0.12 inches in thickness here. You will have to experiment with the specific material you are using to get to the right power and speed setting if you intend to do precise cutting. Because this Atezr laser engraver comes with a 24 watts laser head, I think it is powerful enough to do some serious cutting as well. In the first test, I'm cutting a 5 centimeter diameter circle. The material I'm using here is 3 millimeter thick tempered hardboard. I forgot to mention earlier, the Atezr L2 has a positioning laser cross that is projected onto the surface. This gives you more precision when lining up the laser. The laser cross and the laser beam is 5 centimeters apart. You can actually program the auto zeroing to account for this offset if you want to. And here is a finished cut. You can see the cut is actually very clean and no issues at all. And let's take a look at the measurement here. So thickness, as we mentioned, is 3 millimeters. And let's just spot check on the dimension here. So here is 50.1. Here is 50.1. So it's largely in line with what we designed. Yep, no problem at all. I also cut out a 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters square using the same material. And by the way, I forgot to mention earlier that the Atezr L2 can automatically resume from where it was left off, should there be a loss during the engraving. And this is definitely a nice feature to have, as some of the more complex patterns can take quite some time to finish, and you certainly don't want a power outage to ruin your work. And here is our finished square. You can see that the edges are very clean as well. So let's do a quick dimension check here. This dimension is 49.6. This dimension is 49.8. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy, but that is well within the tolerance. Finally, I tried to cut a circle pattern on a 3/4 inch thick hardwood. This is actually quite thick for the laser. So I ran the pattern 10 times and also reduced the speed quite a bit in the last run. And as you can see here, the laser also cut through the entire thickness. Well, almost cut through the entire thickness. In fact, I think if I run the pattern one more time, it might actually cut through completely. So 3/4 of an inch is probably going to be the thickness this 24 watts laser can cut through. And if we just measure the thickness here, you can see that this is indeed a 3/4 inch piece of wood. What I'm printing here is this Eagle design. It is supplied by Atezr and is meant to showcasing its high-speed printing capability. The material we're using here is MDF, and the print size is 12 inches by 9 inches. Here is the finished print. You can see it came out really nicely. The print is a little bit on the light side. That's because we were doing high-speed printing, and that's to be expected. Also, the final results depends on the material you are using, and this is MDF. Earlier, I was using a piece of drywall to do the dry run, and you can see the result from that print was actually a lot darker. Now I'm engraving an image I downloaded from the internet. I first converted it into a grayscale image, and now I'm printing it out. And it does look right now, at least from what I can see, it's a little bit darker than I would like. And keep in mind that this is actually the first time I'm engraving an image. Some of the settings probably needs a little bit more tweaking here. From what you can see though, it does look like it is a little bit too dark. And here's the finished print. Given that this is the first time I'm printing a grayscale image, the result is actually not that bad at all. Now, it could be a little bit lighter, but it is still pretty decent, in my opinion. I also tried printing out the same image by doubling the print speed and also reduced the print density, and you can see that the image came out a little bit too light. I'm sure once I get to know the parameters a little better and figure out the best way to print pictures, the results will only improve from here. Now I'm printing a leopard. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a carved out image or not, as I'm printing on the same 1/4 inch thickness MDF. So the laser is not going to cut through given the speed it is going at. I have to say the result looks quite good. Now, halfway through the print, I heard some squeaky noise from the sliding rails, and probably some dust had got into the linear bearing. And as you can see here, and from a couple of places, I'm not sure if you can see this, here and here, that does resulted in some inaccuracies in the print. But overall, the picture actually came out quite nice. And anyway, I had lubricated the rails afterwards, and everything should be good now. And just for fun, here I'm printing out Tux the penguin on a piece of MDF. And here's the finished print. In a lot of teardowns, I have seen some ICs with markings removed, and that is just to prevent people from reverse engineering their products. Now, I'm curious to see if I could use a laser engraver to achieve the same result. I believe in practice, this is typically done using a pulsed fiber optic laser, as is much faster. But here we're just using a diode laser. I created a 1 cm by 0.5 cm strip in paint and chose a line density of 6 lines per millimeter and an engraving speed of 10 centimeters per second. And here's the result. I think it turned out pretty well. As you can see, the markings are totally gone now. After using this Atezr L2 for the last couple weeks during this review, I have to say it certainly does what it was designed to do, and it does it very well. The fit and finish of the Atezr L2 is also top quality. The 41 cm by 41 cm working area should be plenty for most of the engraving work. Now I have this laser engraver, I'm sure you will see me using it in my future projects. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review video. If you have any questions, please leave in the comment section below and I will try to address. If you liked the video, please remember to give it a big thumbs up and remember to subscribe to the channel. I will catch up with you next time.